Hello, welcome to the Noble Pod, where we explore ethics and sustainability in business. I'm Felix, and this is my co-host Joseph. Hello, Joseph.
Hello.
So why are we doing this?
Good question. Well, I remember, we've had so many interesting conversations, and we're just like, I think it would be great to just actually record it and, I guess, share it to the world.
Yeah, the audience has an opportunity to be a fly on the wall of, every dinner conversation we've ever had.
Yeah. Well, so some background. Essentially, I run a startup, and Felix works with us, but also is currently finishing his capstone in graphic design, and is doing a lot of very interesting things. Basically, because I'm someone who wears my heart on my sleeve, and you get to see the very interesting kinds of problems and decision making we need to do. Essentially, like the multi-dimensional chess we have to play for our everyday lives. And yeah, it's not easy, and I feel like for both the general public and other founders, not many people know some of the nitty-gritty behind the scenes. Yeah. So, and I mean, when you think of something like Noble, how about if you share how it started?
Well, so Noble, which is Noble Cause, which is a play on words. Basically, that was my final project last year. And I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something a bit special. And I wanted to do something that I've kind of been doing for the last 5 years without even knowing. And that's trying to change perceptions and change the world through as little input as possible. That's one of the reasons I went to graphic design and art in general, because you can elicit so many emotions just from a flat piece of paper, and I just thought that was magical. It depends what you put on that thing. So with Noble, it's trying to be an environmental business without the bullshit.
Yeah.
So we cut straight to the point. We don't make new products to, make a better world. That's adding to the pile. So at the moment, we're trying to focus on turning trash into treasure. And at what point does trash become treasure? How can you sell trash to people or unwanted items? Is it a branding problem? Is it a perception problem? Is it it's dirty? Or is it that people think, it's rubbish. Why would I want to keep using it? A lot of the packaging nowadays, you think plastic, it's incredibly indestructible. And that's kind of ironic considering it's a single-use item most of the time. And so this is good material. And plastic isn't the enemy. It's the use of plastic which is the enemy. And so if we can try and change how we use trash and perceive trash, then I think we'll have a real cool business on our hands. Now, Joseph is the CEO of Zero Tag, which is also tackling a very similar problem, but in a very different way. Would you like to explain Zero Tag?
I could.
Try to.
I mean, look, I could, but I mean, I want to focus on the more of the Noble stuff more. You can go to our website, zerotag.au.
Just to get an idea of who you are and what your experiences have been.
Yeah, I mean, because if I might be interesting to start from the beginning.
Oh no, I see his dilemma.
Yeah,
Zero Tag's been a long time in the making, and
it's in a way it's like it's like a vocation.
Yeah.
And also one reason why I wanted to talk about the noble part of trying to make a difference in the world is because I've seen how difficult it is from so many perspectives. And so background is, in my undergrad I took materials engineering, hung out in the College of Business, made friends in art and design, and went into product design of homewares made of natural materials.
Yeah.
And you realize, fuck, how how much goes into designing a product, like just all the little details no one talks about. And even like, I don't know, I feel like uni doesn't teach it well enough, because
I could go on about that.
yeah, there's so much difference with when you actually just put your life on the line and also try to solve a problem that hasn't been solved before.
Yeah, and there's always that second guessing. It's like, okay, this problem hasn't been solved before, but has it been tried? Have people tried to solve it before?
Yes. So in a way, because if you really want to make a difference in the world, I mean, you also have to kind of like realize that there are all these other people that have come before you, and then if your work is making a conversation with the rest of society, like where do you fit into the picture? I mean, when you go through uni, a lot of stuff they don't even push you that much with asking these kinds of questions. If you take a technical degree, I mean, there's a right answer to a lot of things, and you're learning knowledge that has already been somewhat already established. I remember, for my, I took this elective. It was like entrepreneurship and engineering, and we had to come up with something, pitch it. It was exciting, and so I was looking at current trends in additive manufacturing at that time, and then basically made this proposal and brought it up to my group mates. And then when my group mates was like, so will this give us an A? Like, well, okay, we didn't use letter grades, but you get the point, where it's like all they cared about was if they'd get good grades. Now, the thing with trying to do something innovative is you fucking don't know. If it's truly meaningful, right? Then you're not it's like if you're truly adding to the conversation, you're in a space where you're like, I don't know, and that's why I want to find out.
Yeah, and it's also the assessor's choice as to whether they're receptive of unique and new ideas, regardless of whether they break the supposed rules.
Well, and I mean, and I think that's also a challenge, because I've seen like business schools and they're like entrepreneurship and innovation classes where the assessor is the one determining if it'll work or not. I mean, there's so many variables that go into whether something works or not. Even just like there's like you can have a general concept, and then where the execution and the details make a huge difference. I mean, like where we are at the moment, let's say AR, and VR, like those words have been thrown around for the longest time, right? And then look how far we are at today. And even, let's say, Apple released its Vision Pro thingy. People have lots of mixed opinions about it, but it's a very different take to what many of the things we've seen in the past. So technically, it's in that space. If you were to rule out, AR can't do this, can do this, and even just think of AI. Like AI has been around for a long time, and then when you finally reach, that language learning model kind of stuff, and then it's suddenly transformed into something that people can now perceive, and people now have a different impression of it, right? And the utility, the pros and cons suddenly change. So to rule out an idea just based on a very general statement is very hard and also very naive. I remember Johnny Ive from Apple, he's former head of design, and brought us a lot of the iconic products today. He would talk about how fragile an idea is, how it starts off as words, and we have to be very careful about the words that we use to describe it because it already starts influencing our perceptions of it. And as designers, we make prototypes, and it's just so amazing how it's like you have the same idea, you try different iterations of it, and people can look at the different iterations and sometimes think that you've pivoted.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's the same idea, I've just tried a different approach or different philosophy, but
yeah, and it is that evolution. So if you look at Zero Tag, or even what I'm doing at the very beginning, like, okay, so for like the logo, right, for No Bull, that took 12 weeks to come up with.
Yeah.
The logo and the name took 12 weeks. The concept took 12 seconds.
Yeah.
So,
I saw you at when you were pretty much so worried that if you'd even come up with a concept
we
by
went
the
through
semester.
so many. Oh my god! The original name for it was because it actually started out being a campaign promoting milk on tap, which is basically milk refill. A few shops around Melbourne offer it, and it basically means you bring in a reusable container to a shop and you refill milk, as opposed to getting it from a single-use plastic bottle. Great. But not a lot of people knew about it. So that's kind of the direction I went in. I wanted to make posters, products out of recycled materials and stuff like that to raise awareness. And within the assessment I was doing, that there were certain deliverables I had to meet. And so I designed it to meet those deliverables and go a little further as well. So yeah, it was about milk. So what was the first name I came up with? Well, actually, no, this is a me and Joe thing. I'm not going to take full credit for this. Top Up Tits.
Okay, fine. Now you give.
Yeah. Maybe it was me. I can't remember. Was it me or you?
Definitely you. You're the one who thinks of tits.
Yeah, I was thinking. And the reason it was Top Up Tits, that was the first thing that came to my mind, was because the first environmental initiative I ever did was called Top Up Tap. And that was very similar, but it was in the UK and it was about water refill. And we were a team of like, I don't even know, like 13 of us, ages 14 to 15.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, I'm more immature now that I came up with Top Up Tits and I didn't come up with Top Up Tits back then. So that was the initial direction, and it became kind of a meme. And like everyone in the class was like, "Why is he so obsessed with milk?" Because I was bringing in like liters of milk in to do like photo shoots and stuff in the photography room. And I mean, I didn't want to waste it, so I consumed so much milk during the making of that campaign. We did a little video series as well, where I was sort of being Steve Irwin. I was trying to find the best milk on tap in Melbourne. Joseph helped me film it. That's why you hear him laughing in the background.
Oh yeah.
Those videos. And so basically I made a bag out of recycled materials that holds these milk bottles, because they're actually they don't have a handle, right? Like, like classic plastic bottles, they have a little handle, it's kind of easy to hold. These don't. So I was like, okay, there's an opportunity there. So we made this bag. And so this was a video series that was promoting the use of the bag and how to use the bag and where to go for your milk on tap. I drank 3 liters of milk that day.
Yes.
Because we had to, there were quite a few. I think we went to about, 6 or 7?
Yeah.
And I had to refill it each one, right? So
yeah, just
I
because
didn't want to waste the milk. It was good stuff. It's actually kind of expensive, because a lot of the time, one good thing actually about milk on tap is that you can refill it to exactly the amount you want.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, okay, I'll just refill a little bit, drink it and go on. But it didn't look right, because when you put the milk into the bag, it like covers the milk that you filled it to. So it looks like you didn't fill it. So I had to fill it all the way up to the top, which meant I had to drink all of it. I think by the end of the video, as you can see, my lactose intolerance actually appearing. I didn't have it in the first place, but now I just can't drink milk anymore. Shout out to The Other Way, who supplies the milk kegs. Which, by the way, this is the business model for milk on tap. A keg company, which is The Other Way. I think that's the only one, isn't it?
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah, and they're based in Tasmania. Joseph actually met the suits of The Other Way, which is kind of ironic considering it's called The Other Way. You wouldn't think they wear suits. It'd be more like flannels.
You got Other Way and Top Up Tits.
Yeah, we're all immature in the milk space, I guess. So yeah, basically, The Other Way has a keg, which isn't like a keg shape. It's like a cube, a stackable cube. full of milk. And it's usually organic because they're the only ones mad enough to sign up to the initiative. So it comes from directly from farms, and it's really nice milk, actually, I should know. And it's 18 liters, so they go around to it's cafes and bulk food stores and that sort of thing. And they put it in, they shove a little tube in, and then that goes up to a dispenser, and then the customer refills from that. Yeah. They refill from the tit of the thing, which...
See, you're the one obsessed with
it. I know. It's very funny. I'm young, I'm allowed. Joe's not young. Throwing him under the bus there. No, we're pretty young. We're pretty young. 20s. That's all I'll say. We're in our 20s.
Yeah. Well, essentially, like that was like, there were so many, I guess, new concepts and uncertainties happening at the time. And, well, I mean, coming from like the creative space, I mean, it's funny I even say that because, again, my background is so interesting, I guess. A lot of my...
So many stories.
Yeah, like, I was part of an artist collective in the Philippines, and that's where, just making the most out of what you have and dealing with projects that you have no idea what the outcome will be like. That was something where I started becoming comfortable with.
Yeah, I agree. Uncertainty for me is actually a very comfortable space to be in because I'm very restless. And I think that's where I've been brought up, whether that was intentional by my parents or not. I don't like doing the same thing over and over again. Like even with No Bull, even like the second stage of No Bull, which is going into a different type of business, which is actually more apparel focused. Even that, I was still hesitant to even keep the same name because I was like, I've done that now. I want to move on, try something new, try a whole different philosophy. But I realized that actually, half the work's done for me. I should be proud of what I've created there and actually adapt it for the future.
Well, I mean, I think something that one learns as an artist is, given that there's so much uncertainty with what one does, like, it's quite important that it's grounded in who you are and what you want out of life, I guess.
Yeah.
Which, interestingly enough, is also key to, I guess, being a founder. If, you're not... if you're trying to solve a problem that you're not interested in, if you don't care about your clients, and if it's not even fun for you, how would you survive when...
Well, notice we haven't mentioned money once.
Yes.
That has never been a motivator. And I don't know if that's a privilege or not, because it's not like we're rich or anything.
Nah.
We're broke. As founders, you're broke. But it's all about having that passion, right? Because you wouldn't stick with it if you didn't have that passion. Because there's no monetary necessary incentive at this point. You just love doing it,
So, interestingly, are you familiar with... Charles and Ray Eames?
Yes, I love their chairs.
Yes, so very famous.
I own a fake one. I don't.
If anyone listening to this searches up, Eames chair or something, you'll realize their body of work are so iconic. Yeah. Can you imagine? We just think of that's just furniture by default. No, they set that as the standard, and. They had a very rough journey. I think it started with, I think Charles Eames was an architect, and then he joined this competition for low-cost furniture, came up with this idea of using bent plywood and then created a chair out of it. But to make that come to fruition took him a decade. And they were working odd jobs to figure out how to make a machine to make this at scale, and they finally got their break, not by selling chairs, but by selling molded plywood splints, I think so, essentially the World War whatever broke out, and then they needed something stiff and sturdy for injured people.
Yeah.
And that's how they got enough money to fund the rest of the business.
All right, like crutches. Or leg splints.
Yeah, I
Right.
forgot if it was like for the whole body or just like for the limbs, but essentially like when you're like fractured or something. But I think the point of that is that the founder journey can be a very long one. Um, and if there's so much uncertainty with the end result, it's um, very important that one enjoys the journey, that there's something you can take away whether or not it succeeds. And
Yeah. Oh no, I agree with that. Like, gosh, there's certainly been, and you've had the same, where there's been so many failures, so many things that have not gone how you expect. But we're here now, and we realize that all of those things led up to this point, and you learn so much from those things.
well, I mean, I took up engineering. For us it was normal. We test, like when you do material testing, it's like you want to keep doing stuff until you reach a point it fails, so that you can figure out what exactly caused the failure. Like we fail intentionally in materials engineering.
Yeah.
Because and then it's like but also like combining that, right? It's like the creativity of like you set the direction. I mean, even in materials engineering, okay, you have failure analysis, but then what is failure? And then we start the class like that, and well, failure is simply the opposite of success, and success is whatever you define it. Like a common mistake people will do is like you ask people, is stronger always better? You'll be so surprisingly, so many young engineers will say yeah. So if I have like an adhesive, is a stronger bond always better? Everyone's like yeah. Yeah. Now I guess if you want to, let's say, put a sticky note on your fridge, to use epoxy. Sticky note it was actually like, well, it was funny because it was initially like a failure where it was a very weak bond. And then they realized actually there's a use for a very weak bond. An epoxy will chemically bond to something. It'll be a permanent bond, where if you try to remove it, separate the things, it will destroy each other because they're chemically bonded. So
I know people like that.
yeah, so I mean, it's like is harder always better? They're like, yeah, what if you're designing a pillow? Like,
well, I don't know, Fred Flintstone, he'd have some words to say about that. We're going to take a short break now. Stick around. That was a terrible joke,
Oh my
Joe.
gosh.
You shouldn't make that joke again. Good thing you guys didn't hear that.
Yeah, this is why we had to go on break.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I actually just wanted to continue on the Charles and Ray Eames thing because, one of Ray Eames's friend asked her, hey Ray, it's like, do you ever miss painting? And she was like, I never stopped. I just changed my canvas.
Oh. It's pretty Chad.
So, I mean, for me, there's a lot. Business is very interesting. Where I actually think art and business have a lot more in common than people realize.
Okay, look, I could talk for like hours about like categorization of creative stuff.
Yeah.
And it being complete crap.
Yeah.
Like, business is art.
Yeah, I think also lots of business people can, I mean, as you were saying, like learn from an artist mindset.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, my mum is in the financial world.
Yeah.
Well, she was. She's now doing like compliance for banks and things like that. She says she can't draw and she doesn't have a creative bone in her body and all that sort of stuff. But she is one of the most creative people I've ever met. And she married my dad, who is very, very artistic and very creative. And they complement each other so well because she actually comes up with ideas, but she doesn't frame it as artwork. She like you say, painting, right, doesn't have to be with paint. It's the medium. So her paintbrush and her canvas is seeing all these little details, all these massive spreadsheets and stuff, and spotting these little numbers that don't quite add up. And that to me is an art. And I remember I started drawing when I was like 2 years old on the walls and stuff. And my mum, I was better at drawing than my mum when I was like 5 or something. But recently I was doing this big artwork. It was about, a little smaller than this table actually. It was a pencil drawing. And there was a little space that I was like, I don't know what to fill this with. So I got my mum and I forced her to draw. And so first I was like, okay, draw a flower. And she drew a flower from her mind. And what it ended up being was a logo of a flower, a symbol of a flower. And that tends to happen with a lot of people when you tell them to draw something. Even if the thing is right in front of them, they draw the symbol of it, like an eye or a face. It's like, oh, a smiley face. But they don't draw the specific shape that is in front of them. So then I put a flower pot right in front of her. And I said, just don't worry about failing, or don't worry about, no one's going to judge you. Just draw what you see. And within 10 minutes, the drawing had gone from like this childish sort of thing to something that was really, really good.
Yeah.
And she impressed herself, she impressed me, she impressed everyone. It was amazing. And so I realized that, that creative thinking, that separate side of the brain is very, very active in a lot of people. And so for me, I can't do maths. And Joseph has been telling me for ages that I can do maths. And it's just like me telling my mum she can draw. And I still haven't gotten to the point where I believe that. We're probably going to have to do some mentoring or something on maths. But yeah, I see the world creatively, and I understand how you can see it mathematically. But it doesn't click with me so well. But I want to understand it,
No longer afraid of failing.
Yeah.
And this is like what I brought up about in engineering, having group mates that are like, are you sure this will get us the best grade? I mean, it's just like when you're in innovation, in startup, are you sure you can, make this successful? Like, no, it's like, if you really are trying to do something meaningful, push the needle, innovate, expand, create a new market, then you will reach a point where I can try de-risking things by, studying various things, but you reach a point where there's not enough information to have any certainty if this will work or not. But that's why it's exciting, right? And that's the thing that, whenever there are pressures to have that kind of guarantee, it tends to kill innovation. Take, for example, think of this current state of Hollywood, especially Disney. Oh my God.
Oh, no.
It's like...
I've heard Joe's rants about Disney.
Nobody
Should we jump into it?
Well, pretty much everything is a remake. Everything is a sequel. Because if you ask someone, hey, I have this new story to tell, they're like, will this work? Or like, right? No one has any proof. The only things that have a proof or have some history are things that already exist.
Yeah, but then another argument is that nowadays people are so quick to judge things. So in the old days, like if something didn't work immediately, people would give it time, right? Like the microwave oven. That didn't work immediately. People didn't take to that immediately, but they gave it time and, it improved, blah, blah, blah. Nowadays, if it's not perfect immediately, people are like, they're on Twitter, they're telling you, this is falling off, this is shit. I was telling you earlier, like some people are at like concerts and things.
Yeah.
And the artist isn't doing a very good set or whatever, in their own opinion. And before the concert's over, they're already reviewing the thing, cherry picking the parts that were, conforming to this narrative that this artist has fallen off or something, and then tweet that, and of course everyone believes them, and they don't see the show because they think, oh well, the guy's terrible. But then actually, by the end of the show, it's been a great time, everyone's enjoyed it, and the person who's tweeted that it's terrible sort of eats their own foot because people have off days, people have good days. It's like you can't judge them so harshly so quickly. And it's the same with ideas, right? So with a Disney script, right? Like they are scared that it's not going to have a brilliant opening box office day. But so many films haven't. And then, 10 years down the road or a year down the road, it explodes and everyone loves it.
Yeah.
Wayne's World. That was not popular when it came out. But then it just, it became, because they didn't push it, it became a cult film. And now it's, hugely popular and people watch it all the time.
I mean, it takes some time for
Yeah.
people to fall in love with something.
Yeah, A Wonderful Life. You know that film?
I don't know much films.
It's 19... What year was A Wonderful Life? Do you know? No, my assistant knows nothing.
Oh, okay, I know this story. Something like it ended up airing on British television because it was a complete failure, and
Yeah.
so the company went bankrupt, and it was free for them to air.
I think something like that, yeah. But it was a Christmas. It was Christmas, and it's some people's favorite Christmas film. I love it. It's great. And yeah, that was terrible to begin with. But yeah, I just feel like I can't judge things so quickly and so harshly.
And so that gives, given that, right, that basically tells us that first impressions, they're not always true, especially for something that, like a business that has a backbone, right? And if you're an external person judging how a business is running, really, how much do you know? Right? It's like you could be supplied the information, but do you bother to actually know? Like you're saying, you have people judging a concept before it's even finished, right? And that actually is, challenging when you look at, let's say, how businesses are financed. Think of, let's say, a public company where you have shares in a stock market and where the market, decides how much they're willing to pay for certain shares. Well, usually they'll be like, oh, company announcement. Then the external perception changes. Value goes up or down. And if that drives a company, then really everything's like, that's all based on superficial things. How do you execute something that has long-term planning, right? Something where you're building the foundations for something. I mean, you could try communicating it to to the public market, but I mean, we're living at a time also where even how people buy and sell, and now it's done by algorithms and programs. Like sometimes they don't even listen to your company's story or even listen to your company roadmap and your plans. They just look at the numbers at face value.
Or just the pictures.
The pictures.
Yeah, like if it's... Okay, so say there's a business you just created and you're trying to get marketing for it. The best avenue for you, the cheapest, is social media. So you even if you don't like pay for like advertising within social media, which is a bit of a rort, it gets into people's feed. It's more likely to. But it's such a roulette game because it doesn't matter how much effort you put into that content, how good it looks even, it doesn't necessarily reach its audience.
Well, because look, I mean, with business, even though it is for, it's an odd end of vocation, but at the end of the day as well, it's like, there is the goal of making money, and it's like how things are financed, how the people who invest in the company get incentivized, all affect how business is run. So, I mean, I'm still early in my entrepreneurial journey, but that's something that there's so many dimensions of chess you have to play, from how to even get your company off the ground, to even have the money to create money.
Yeah.
And still constantly be in a space of uncertainty, yet doing all the smart things to maximize the chance of success.
Yeah, well then that I suppose goes back to the idea of putting in an intelligent amount of energy to get something out, to
Yeah.
get the most out, as opposed to flailing around and wasting loads of resources. I mean, that there's a balance, you can, because I think failing is important, right? But you don't want to waste
Yeah.
to fail.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the art of finding that balance
Yeah.
is what I hope that this series of Noble explores.
yeah, and a lot of it is asking questions.
Yeah.
You've got to talk, but listen even more.
Yeah.
We've got some guests coming up. Very
Yes.
exciting.
Yeah.
And we plan on listening to them.
Yeah.
Because the more people tell you about their own failures and their own successes, the more likely you are to be able to take that on yourself, and you don't have to waste so much energy and time going down, a red herring. So it's no bullshit. We're really trying to make a difference here.
So stay tuned. We're going to explore, well, the
Ethics, sustainability in business,
Yeah.
and also just have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Because I think people greenwash things so much and they put so much emphasis on it, and we have actually got time to solve these problems. It's better to do it right than to be in a rush and come to the wrong solutions after spending years just going down the wrong route.
Yeah. So stick around and see you next episode.
Yes, thank you very much.